I told you that an innocent man once confessed to a crime he never committed? Not because he was guilty, but because he was exhausted. After 14 hours of questioning, no lawyer, no sleep, no physical evidence, he finally said 3 words that destroyed his life. I did it. But here's the terrifying part. He was telling the truth when he said he didn't.
He sat quietly, his hands folded on the metal table in front of him. The room was dimly lit, the only light hanging overhead, casting long shadows on the wall. Every tick of the clock seemed louder in the silence. Tick, tick, tick. Hours had passed. Then, his voice broke the silence, soft but clear. I did it. For the detectives, the confession marked the end of the investigation. But for Daniel, the truth was only beginning. Because the crime he confessed to, he had never committed. Daniel was 24 years old. He lived alone in a small apartment, worked long shifts at a local warehouse, and led a quiet life. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He wasn't a criminal. To his neighbors and co-workers, he seemed invisible, polite, calm, unremarkable. He spent evenings quietly at home. Sometimes, he would read or watch old movies. He avoided loud places and crowded events. No one could have imagined that within days, his life would be turned upside down. Because one shocking crime would place him at the center of a case he had nothing to do with. Early one morning, police were called to a quiet suburban home. Inside, they found a woman dead. Her body showed signs of violence, but nothing had been stolen. The house was untouched. It wasn't a random act. Detectives believed the killer knew the victim. Neighbors were questioned. One mentioned seeing a man leaving the house late the night before. They couldn't clearly describe him, but they remembered one detail. He looked like Daniel, the quiet neighbor no one paid attention to. And just like that, Daniel became a suspect. Police contacted Daniel at work. They told him they only needed to ask a few questions. He agreed. He didn't panic. He didn't call a lawyer. But he didn't know he was no longer just a witness. He was now the main suspect. The interrogation room was small and windowless. A camera in the corner silently recorded every movement. At first, the officers were calm, friendly. They offered him water, spoke politely. But as the hours passed, the tone changed. Questions shifted from simple to accusatory. Why are you lying to us? We already know what happened. This is your chance to help yourself. Daniel answered honestly. But he had no witnesses to confirm his alibi. No one could prove where he had been. Over the next 12 hours, Daniel grew exhausted. No food, no proper sleep, limited bathroom breaks. The officers didn't need to shout. Their words were enough. If you keep lying, things will get much worse. Confess, and you can go home sooner. Under this psychological pressure, Daniel's mind began to blur. Time lost meaning. Doubt crept in. Was it possible he had done something and forgotten? Could he have unknowingly been involved? Finally, Daniel's resistance broke. His hands shook, his voice barely audible. I did it. The officers smiled. The confession was recorded. Paperwork completed. Everything appeared official. Everything seemed final. But Daniel couldn't provide any details only the real killer would know. His confession sounded uncertain, rehearsed. It was a statement made under pressure, not truth. Forensic tests were conducted. DNA didn't match Daniel. Fingerprints belonged to someone else. The timeline didn't add up. The confession was all that tied him to the crime. Reviewing the interrogation footage later, Daniel's lawyers noticed the subtle manipulations. Repeated questions, suggested answers, implied threats. It became clear Daniel hadn't confessed willingly. He had been guided into it. Months later, the real perpetrator was caught. The DNA matched perfectly. He confessed freely, detailing everything Daniel could not have known. Daniel was released. But freedom came too late. His job was gone. His reputation shattered. And though legally innocent, the mark of a false confession stayed with him forever. This story isn't just about Daniel. It's about the fragility of the human mind under extreme pressure. A confession does not always equal guilt. So ask yourself, if you were locked in that room, alone, exhausted, pressured for hours, Would you have held on to the truth?